Okay, well, I want to go ahead and get started. And
I appreciate you all being here today. This is for your benefit that the CRMS DC has decided to host this session for you. I am Jennifer Collins, President and CEO of JDC Events, where we produce engagement-driven, live, hybrid, and virtual events. And I'm also an MBE within the Capital Region as well. So I'm very excited for you to have this opportunity to present your pitch so that not only you present it, but you actually win it. And so that's what the goal of this is to give you some strategies on how you can better develop what you do so that your video that you create can be that winning pitch. And so the survey was good to see, to understand that some of you want to know more about how to create more professionalism on camera, and as well as whether there really is a difference between virtual and in person, and then even your staging. All of that plays into how successful you are virtually. As you know, we've been doing this now for the past year, but many hadn't really understood the differences between virtual and in-person events. At my company, at JDC Events, we work with presenters to help them to hone their presentations, whether it's what they're, not necessarily what they're speaking, but how they present themselves, so that when they present and perform within a client's event, that they come through professionally, that they come through credibly, and that they learn some skill sets so that it can help them to better leverage the overall environment. So with that, let's get started. I'm just going to advance my screen here. And as soon as it goes. You know, and I'm glad that you all are here because of the fact that, you know, it's a small crowd, of course, but this is actually going to place you in a different place in the sense of being prepared to really script your video so that these skill sets and these tips that you use will help you stand out from the rest. So let's take a look quickly at the differences between in-person events and virtual events, or environments, I should say as well. You see some of the differences here. Some of these are the characteristics, just some of them, of in-person versus virtual. Now, you see that they have their own power. They have their own power, their own characteristics. They are not mutually exclusive. They are two different tools in the toolbox to use for you to communicate. So that's why it's important to understand that there is a difference between a virtual environment and in person, because there are many people who think that, oh, it's virtual, it doesn't have as much value as in person, which is not the case. Think about it. The reason that we've been able to do what we're doing right now is because of digital. We are virtual. That's the only reason. You can't do that in person. So it has its own power. And so you may be wondering, okay, well, so what? You know, why does this matter? It matters because for many, perception is reality. And so this particular perception may very well help make people to make their decisions. So if they are automatically assuming that an in-person event is better than virtual, that means that you are going to have to do whatever you can do to leverage the virtual environment to your benefit. So we don't want somebody that's judging your video to say, well, you know what, that person, they really would have done better if they had have done something different. The virtual environment, this just doesn't work for them. If they were in person, it really would have been better for them to have done it. We don't want them thinking that way. So that's why I want to help you to provide some tips and strategies on how you really can leverage the benefits of virtual to your advantage. So that brings me to a strategy. As with anything, you need a strategy. And so first and foremost, you have to prepare. That is a strategy, meaning you just can't wake up one day and decide that, oh, I'm just not going to even do anything. I'm just going to record this on my iPhone. I'm just going to record this on what have you, and not do any preparation. That is not the way that you want to operate in the virtual space. You want to make sure that you're going to think through your technology, your background, your staging, your wardrobe, your appearance, all of those details that we're going to get into a little bit later. You have to make sure that they're a part of your preparation. Regardless that some might think that there's no difference between being in person or virtual, there is, because when you're talking to people, you're talking to them through the camera. as opposed to seeing their eyes face to face. And so you also want to make sure that you adapt. Your focus is to leverage the virtual environment. And so when you adapt, you're adapting by projecting professionalism because the face to face is removed. So when that face to face is removed, you don't have those natural moments. So you have to create them virtually. And so you want to make sure that what you do create and how you project is professional. And it's something that people will be able to position themselves to think that, oh, okay, this company really does know what they're talking about. Oh, okay, I really understand what they're saying. It's good. So you really need to make sure that you're able to project that professionalism so that people will trust you and consider you to be a credible source. And then, of course, you need to manage your environment. And we'll talk about this a little bit later as well. This is the how you deliver your pitch, meaning the pace that you speak, the tone, the pitch, those type of considerations in terms of your speech. We're not going to get a lot into that, but that is something that you are going to have to think through to make sure that you are able to manage the environment so that people can truly see you as a resource and as a credible one at that, and one that is worthy of winning this particular competition. So that brings me to your scene. So this is your background. And I'm sure that you all have seen all sorts of many different things as people are online and in their own homes or wherever it is that they are. But it's ideal for you to find a quiet space within your home. I understand there may be other people in it, but you're going to have to find somewhere that you do not have distractions. That will be the running theme of this entire training. You really don't want to have any interactions or distractions that's going to take people's attention away from when you do your video, them hearing the message that you're trying to deliver to them. If you need to place a do not disturb, that's what you should do. Check your background. For instance, you'll see this picture here. That's not tidy, but I've seen that a lot where people can be in front of their closet, the door is open, and I see all of their stuff just hanging there. So you don't want that to happen. Be cognizant of what's behind you. Ideally, a neutral colored wall works best. But it could be a number of other options as well, whether it's bookcases. You see me now in front of my bookcase. And so in my office. And so that could be something that works very well, or it could be just a closed door. You could be in a hallway of your home with a closed door, provided there's nobody else that's going to be around you to distract. You could be in front of closed blinds. Just make sure they are closed so that you don't have a glare. You should also consider, there are some people that would say that you shouldn't consider this, but I'm okay with it, for you to consider a virtual background. However, it has to be a virtual background that is not looking as though you're like floating in space. You don't want to have that, or that you're pixelated, you're coming in and out. That looks creepy and it's very distracting. So even with some of the images that you see on the screen here, you see some people are blurred in the background. That works. But if you have a green screen, that can help with some of the virtual backgrounds, but I don't want you to think that you have to purchase anything for your pitch. That's very important. So whatever you have it in your home. It's just a matter of orchestrating it to the best of your ability so that you can give that presentation that the judges will want to see and potentially choose you because of it. So don't feel as though this has to become a big production. It does not. You can use what you have. So the next is, of course, your technology. And we all know that technology is something that, goes in and out, and there are all sorts of issues with it. So for you to consider your technology, ensure that your audio and video is working. That's number one. And that's something that sounds so basic, I know, but you'd be surprised at how many people's audio doesn't work or their video doesn't work. So you want to make sure that it does operate to the best of its ability and test the speed. 10 megabits is great, is okay. 30 or higher is better. I put on here wired. People don't have wired internet in their home. We normally do this when we're in-person events and maybe at hotels or something along those lines. But if you do have a wired connection, that's even better, but you don't need it. It's just you want to be as close to your router as possible. And you also want to make sure if there's anybody else in your home that when you do decide to record your video, that they're not on it in case you need that internet, so that you can have as much of the connectivity as possible. And use that, if you see that address at the bottom of the deck there, the slide, that is a way that you can test the internet connectivity. And wherever you are in your home or wherever venue that you are, it'll come up to tell you the megabits that are there. So that'll help you to see how strong the connection is and whether you need to make a change or not, wherever it is that you are. You also want to consider using a headset of some sort, because that will help to block any other sound. When you're using your laptop recording or your laptop microphone, you can sometimes hear echoes or reverberations or something that is distracting. So for instance, I have on today an external microphone that I do like, but you can use AirPods, you can use these earbuds, whatever it is, or a formal headset. You just want to be able to hear the audio clearly, and you want people to be able to hear you clearly. And make sure you're turning off your notifications. I hear that a lot, where the pinging and the dinging, people's emails or their cell phone or their Fitbit or whatever it is, that kind of is just, it's distracting. And so you just want to make sure that anything that potentially has the power to distract, because it pings and blings and dings, that you make sure that you disable it so that you don't hear it. Now, again, remember, what we're talking about is how you are building credibility through your camera, right? Because you don't see anybody, but where the people are that are watching you, they're in the camera. So you need to build credibility, and the look, how you look, is a big way of doing that. So how can you position how you look better on camera? I wanted to include this picture because this is a real picture. The woman that you see in the picture is one of my senior directors in the company. And she had a sales meeting with a potential vendor that we were going to use for a service. When they opened up the meeting, clicked on the links, this is who popped in. This is real. And so this is a salesperson. So this is important for you to see, because this clearly does happen. And I want you to win this competition. And so that's why I want you to be cognizant of how you look and how you position yourself and how you dress, so that people are not distracted by how you look. Because again, we're trying to build credibility and professionalism here, right? We're trying to communicate that through a camera. And in order to do that, you have to make sure that you look the part, because you can only see them. They can only see you through the camera. So how you do that is you choose clothing that is solid in colors. It complements your skin tone. You should think about, too, the use of black. On camera, it doesn't come through well. Sort of makes you two-dimensional. So black isn't always the greatest solid color, but anything that can make you pop, anything that brings out the best in you in terms of your tone, your skin tone, that makes you really bright, brightens you up. And then, of course, your grooming, in the sense of how you look. If it really is, if you wear makeup, you put on your makeup as you normally would. If you're a man, you groom in terms of shaving. If that's what you do, just normally do it. I wouldn't do anything like, you don't need a big type of makeup production or, anything along those lines. You really need to focus on your authentic self. And so you just need to pay attention to whatever that means for you when you do go out and talk to people. Now, if you do wear glasses, make sure your glasses, the lenses, are clear, because sometimes they can be a smudge on them and you can't see the eyes. Because remember, you need to build credibility with people through a camera. And the only way people can do that is by seeing you eye to eye. And so when you're looking in the camera eye to eye, that's how you are meaningfully engaging with them, even though you can't see them. But when you do it and then it's delivered to them, that's where it really is going to be helpful for you to be able to see and be able to communicate in such a way. Now, I wanted to include a few pictures here because you see that they all look great, in the sense of their clothing, their wardrobe, in the sense of their grooming, very attractive. They all look put together. But why I wanted to show you this photo is because if you look at each of their shirts and tops, they have a lot going on, right? Here's a lot going on. She got a lot going on. And down here, he's not only his shirt got a lot going on, but he's doing a little something in addition to that. So there's just a lot here. So what happens in that instance when you show up like this on video, people are going to look at your blouse or whatever it is that you have, and it's going to become a distraction. For instance, the animal print. I like animal prints. And so when I see people that have animal prints on, I always focus on it because I like it. And so if I saw somebody come up with an animal print, I'd be like, ooh, look at that animal print. And that immediately takes my focus away from anything that you're saying to me. That's why you don't want to distract. I know these tips don't seem necessarily as very complex, but I will tell you, they make a world of difference. So think about it before you record your video, what you're going to wear, so that what you wear doesn't take away from the attention of what you're trying to deliver in the sense of the winning pitch for this particular competition. And so that brings me to your lighting. So lighting, some people think, oh, do you really need lighting? Does it really make all that much of a difference? It does. And so here you will see a diagram of 3-point lighting. And so you have a key light, a fill light, and a backlight. And so the key light is a light that is a little adjacent to you, away from the computer if you have a laptop. And it shines the brightest on you. For instance, I have a light on me right now. That's a key light. And then you have a fill light that's toward the back. And then you can have a backlight as well. Now, let me just say again, this is not something that you have to go out and buy any new equipment for. I imagine you have lamps in your home or wherever you are. So if you have a lamp, lamps can work. Just be careful of rooms that have overhead lights. They sometimes can emit a bit of a glare. And if you sit with your back to windows, sometimes those windows have a big glare, and it sometimes can look like you're floating and you get lost in it. So if you do have to sit in front of windows, close the blinds or close the shades or whatever is up there so that you get rid of the actual glare. So again, I don't want you to think that you have to go out and buy anything new. You can do this with what you have in your house. And so I wanted to just show you here in terms of the effects of lighting. So at the top, you see, I'm there in front of my bookcase, and I have a little bit of light on me. At the bottom, I don't have any light on me. It's just a little dimmed. So I'm hoping that you can actually see the difference between the lighting so that when you do project on video, this is potentially what people will see. And so you want to make sure that you're appearing bright and poised and alive, and the lighting will help you to create that. And that brings me to framing your shot. So when you think about framing your shot, we're all working with laptops in front of cameras. I've been talking originally about the way to connect with people is eye to eye. And so when you're connecting with them eye to eye, that means your laptop has to be lifted so that the camera on it is actually eye level, right? So that means you have to put it on some books, like I have mine on some books right now, or you can be standing up. But even so, you still might have to elevate it on something so that the camera can be eye to eye. That is the critical part of operating online, is that you need to still engage with people. And the way to engage with them or create that meaningful connection with them, even though you can't see them, is to make it appear as though you're talking to them face to face by looking in the camera. Here are some good examples of this. So again, you can be standing or you can be seated, but just make sure if you are seated that you are sitting straight up. So you see the good there, that particular, I took some images of myself to show you some different options. I'm again in front of my bookcase. And so you see there's enough space between the top of my head and the frame. We're all now working in these little frames on Zoom or whatever platform you're on. So that's how we are appearing now in our communication. So you want to make sure that you're within that frame so that you still can be effective when communicating, even by video, to your prospect. So that's good. Now, I do want to mention about the first one that's good. Look, I want you to notice that I did that purposely. I have on something black, and I wanted you to see what it looked like. It doesn't, as I mentioned before, in terms of the look and the wardrobe, it doesn't look very good. So that's something that you just need to be mindful of when you do choose your wardrobe, to stay away from black if you can at all. And so if you look over to the right, you see the other one that says too far away, it is. Because if you're sitting so far away, what that communicates to the viewer is that you're not engaged, that you're not connected to them. There's no way to have a conversation with someone when you're sitting all the way across the room. Keep in mind, that's how it communicates. And so you see the one at the bottom where it says, okay, that's okay. A little more of my torso shows. That's fine. But it's still pretty good height between my top of my head and the frame. So that's fine. Now, the one on the right, the last one, where it's too close and you're looking down, I'm looking down. I see that quite a bit. A lot of people do that. And I don't really know why. Maybe they think it really looks good. But the issue with that is that you are appearing as though the people are looking up your nose. And so you don't want that to be your focus. Remember, you're trying to have a conversation with people through a camera and you can't see them, but they can see you. So you want to talk to them eye to eye as if you were in person. And that's the way to do it, is by continuing to look at the camera. Now think about too, see, I've been talking and I talk, with my hands. And so, which is fine. You just want to be conscious though about your positioning and your movement. Make sure that your movement in the frame is very natural. So if you talk with your hands, that's okay. But you just don't want it to be too much. You don't want to sway side to side, or if you're on a chair, you don't want to start rocking back and forth. You don't want to do that because, again, what we want to avoid here is distraction. We want people to hear your pitch. We want them to focus on what your product or your service is and how great your company is and why you deserve to win. That's the point. So we don't want them to get distracted by looking at what you're wearing, looking at what's behind you that is interesting to them more so than what you're saying or any of that. So that's the whole goal, because it is possible that people won't hear you because they're so focused on everything else around you. So when we think about perfecting your pitch, here are a few areas that I want to hone in on. And we've already talked a lot about the credibility and the trust and how to build it, which is eye-to-eye communication, period. So regardless of what people might say, that is critical for you to build on that face-to-face by talking to the camera. Look straight into the camera. I know it's unnatural. And so a way that that might help you to be able to train your eye to start looking at the camera is to put a smiley face there, because that will draw your attention to it. And I know it feels awkward because what you really want to do is look down. So if you have any sort of visuals that you might play within your video, you very well may want to look down at them, which looking down naturally to glance is okay. But what we often do is we look down and we keep our eyes focused there. Remember, the people that you're talking to, that you want to engage with, that you want to hear your pitch, are in the camera. So you need to continue to look at the camera. And here you'll see a little bit of an example of looking at the camera versus looking down at the screen. So you see the difference. And so the people that are looking or watching your video, if you're looking down, they're going to notice that you're looking down. You're not looking at them. And so that's distracting in and of itself, because that's not natural. That's like, being with someone in person and just like looking down at their shirt or something. You're not looking at their eye. So that's why you'll have to train yourself to keep your eyes focused on your camera and to practice this, because you are going to, by default, want to look at the screen because it's natural and you see movement there. But look at the camera, because that will continue to be you'll continue to look in the eyes of each particular person that will be viewing your particular video. And these as well are tips that you can use even when you're at work, if you do video conferencing at work or in other situations. So this isn't something that you can just use for the competition. You can use this in whatever capacity that you are operating in online. And so you also want to make sure to hook your viewers in the first 30 seconds. If you want to start with an anecdote, with a quote, with some sort of story or what have you, whatever it is, hook them within 30 seconds so that they're drawn into what you're talking about. You're telling them about the benefits and all of the great stuff about your product or your service, your company, but keep it short. And also write the script out. Because if you spend some more time with your script beforehand, it'll become conversational as opposed to very static in that it may appear as though you're reading. You want to be conversational and poised when you're delivering it. Because again, what we want to avoid is any type of distraction. And so if people are going to just hear it in a certain monotone way, they're going to get caught up in how you're delivering it as opposed to what you're saying. So you want to be authentic. And we want you to tell your story in such a way as to be authentic. And so this also begs to use visuals, strong visuals. These are going to help you to enhance your story. These will help you to really be able to build the bigger picture as to how great your company is, how great your service is, or your product. That's what this is going to do for you. So you want to speak clearly with passion, with conviction, if you will, and delivering that to them, letting them know that, you are the company to choose. You want to ask for that win in the sense of the competition and acknowledge that. But I would say a critical piece of this is to practice as much as you can, especially looking into the camera, because that is the critical piece, because that's where the person is that's watching you. That's where all of the judges will be that are watching you. So you want to look into that camera to make sure that you are able to communicate meaningfully, even though you can't see them, but you will translate well to them in being able to adopt many of these practices that I have just shared with you. So a few of the don'ts to do. Don't stare down. We've already talked about that, and not looking at the screen. If you need to glance, that's fine, but you just don't want to fixate on your screen. But I also want to say that you be mindful of the fillers like or and replace them with a pause, which I know is not natural and it doesn't feel natural. But here's an example. I walked to the store and I picked up some milk and then I picked up some bread and then I went down the street. As opposed to I walked to the store, I picked up some milk, then I picked up some bread and I walked down the street. You see the difference? There's a big difference. It doesn't sound natural, but it's a big difference, because what will happen is if you put in too many ums, people are going to focus on the and they're going to stop hearing what you're saying. So if you pause, what that exudes is a continuation in your thought process. That again, you can get down by practice, but make sure that you do find a way not to put in any fillers that again are going to take the viewer's attention away from all of the great information that you're sharing about your company. Again, no distractions. So let's sum up a few things. You really need to prepare. Make sure that you prepare as much as possible. You just don't wake up one day and decide that you're going to just record a video. Prepare for it. Plan your environment. Think about it. Stage it. Work on that. So and take pictures of it from different angles so that you know how people are going to see it when it's on video. And then perfect that pitch. Hook them quickly, but also make sure that you are able to tell a story and be authentic in the process. And find that time. Practice. Not only do you need to practice and practice and practice again, but find that way, that time to make friends with your camera. That, I think, is probably the biggest part, is how to make friends with your camera so that you appear as though you're connecting and engaging with somebody that you can't see, but they know they're there. I know you're there. I can't see you, but I know you're there. And so I want to talk to you and I want to connect and engage with you. So that's why I'm talking to your camera right now, so that we can connect eye to eye and you can feel as though that I'm actually speaking to you directly. So with that, I know that these are tips that some of them may not have been earth-shattering per se, but they are so important when you develop them and adopt them. So what I do want to say is I want you all to win. And that's why I'm glad that you're here, because this is going to set you apart from others that are going to compete in this competition, where you can take away some of these strategies to help you develop a stronger pitch, not only a stronger pitch, but a pitch that's going to win. Because of the fact that you're taking the time to find out different ways and resources that you can do it different and that you can do it better. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if you can, put yourself back on gallery view. That way I can really see you, just outside of looking at you in the camera.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Hey, I'll start it off.
Yes.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, good. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. I just have a question. I just did that just for you with the ums.
I love it. Thank you.
In a different meeting, I was talking to some of my friends or colleagues that were now see, that's all I can think about right now. But the whole thing with the black shirt, and I understand why you said that. I was given some contrary information. So if I have a white background or a light color background, black would be good. And I hear you say kind of stay away from black. So I've been doing since I have this white background, I've been staying with black. So it's interesting to hear that. And does the black go, is it with everything, or am I okay if I have like a white background like I have right now?
Well, I think that it's a very good question. And I think that what the black does is it doesn't give you as much definition. That's really more so it. It's sort of like, and I'm not saying that you are like this, but what it can translate into is sort of like a blob. You know what I mean? It doesn't really show the separation in the sense of where you begin and where you end, if you will, if that's probably the best way that I can say it. So that's the only reason that I would say to stay away from black if needed.
Okay.
I mean, of course, you do look fine, against your white background. That's understood. But it's just you sometimes don't have the detail, if you will, that you would get with another color.
No, I totally get that. And and on a side note, I'm just saying them every time now, but just hearing you talk about the things we should and should not do. Me and a coworker, I was talking to one of my BD guys, and I was bringing up things that you were saying, but I didn't know why. I was saying like, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong, and what you're doing and what you said today kind of drove home a lot of those points that I had. My aggravation or my issues were when some of my team were on presentation, they were doing a lot of those things that you were like, well, you shouldn't do that. And so it's just kind of cool to hear someone who's an expert say that. So I can actually verbalize, or I can point back to, no, she's an expert. She said this.
Yes, I'll be happy to be your wingman. So, if you need to call me because they're doing something else, just let me know and I'll be happy to talk to them.
All right. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks for the questions. Is there anyone else? Hello.
Hi, I had a question regarding the pace and the speed with which you do the pitch. I mean, I understand one side you're saying it's supposed to be conversational, but at this other point, it's like, should it be measured? Measurably slow or fast?
Yes. Well, you definitely want to speak in such a way that people understand what you're saying. So you don't want to speak too fast because you need to make sure that they can capture where you are. And so the pace is it's really more so of the pitch, whether you're not speaking monotone, like I went to the store and I did this and then I had to pick this up and then I wanted to go back the other day. You want to be able to tell that story that, I went to the store and my product does this. And when we were able to ship the product in this capacity, this is what happened because of it. You want to be able to go up and to go down and to, yes, tell that story and keep that pace. But you still want to sell in the sense of telling these judges why it is your company, that's the company that's going to win this. You still want to be able to do that, but you just want it to be done in such a way that it's conversational as opposed to that monotone that you're in you're been taken hostage, that sort of type of production. You just want to avoid that. So that's the goal of your delivery, if that makes sense to you.
Sure. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Other questions I'd be happy to answer.
Good afternoon, Ms. Collins.
Yes, hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Glad you're here.
Quick question about using the visuals. Are the visuals already supposed to be on the screen, or how are you doing that? Because I generally I get distracted if I have to move more than one thing at a time and I'm trying to focus on what I'm saying. So what do you recommend when you have to share screen and do other things and still trying to maintain the focus on your person that you're talking to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And for instance, when I've recorded certain videos, and I did not mention this in the presentation, but a good way to record, I don't know what level iPhones that you all have, but iPhones can really be a great use of time in recording videos, because many of them now have really great quality. So that can be an option. And I'm saying that only because some of my videos that I've recorded have been on my iPhone. And so when I use my iPhone, what I'm doing is I have my script. And so I know what I need to say on screen. But then when I need to put an image or some sort of visual other than myself with it, I edit that in. And so in certain instances, I very well may not be sitting here at my laptop recording. I just may be recording myself speaking, and then I insert my image, whatever that might be. It could be a video, small video or what have you, into the actual production. That's one way for you to think about doing it. If you do want to do it like this, where I'm talking on my laptop right now, we're on Zoom. And so we're recording, and if I'm recording and I do have a visual, the one thing that I would just make sure that you do is you want to talk to your camera in whatever segment that you want to talk to yourself in. But then you have to bring in another segment to that to make it smooth and threaded in. So that's why you need to leave yourself enough space to cut out anything that needs to be cut out. If that makes sense to you, do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes.
Because that way it helps you to be able to still have that continuity and to still have that image, but you just need to edit out certain aspects that you don't need, like when you're shifting to get the image. So that you can cut out. So you have to think in terms of segments, bite-sized pieces. Deliver your opening, deliver what's great about yours, and then if you need an image, then you have to pad that recording a little bit so that you can add that image back in.
Okay. See, I'm always thinking about being the perfectionist and you just get it all right. I used to really believe that. When I saw people on video, I used to say, wow, that guy talked for 5 minutes and he didn't have a or miss word or anything. Wow, I want to be like him. And I just thought it was all one take, and that's just the way it's done. And that's just was so frustrating. But to know that you get, with technology, you can kind of piece it together and everything makes a whole lot more sense.
Oh yeah, it's very easy. And there are lots of softwares that can help you to do that, because we of course work with them, especially within my company. But even so, for me, I just do certain little videos that I like to do because I just like to do videos. And so I just figure out ways to put them together. So it's the editing that you're not seeing that people are actually doing, but they come out with a really great product. So you shouldn't, knock yourself in terms of the perfectionism, because if you just can get a good edit in there, you'll be golden.
Doing that with my podcast now. So I'm doing just the audio version, not any videos, anything like that. So the audio version, you can definitely make a big difference in removing some ums and some mistakes.
Yes.
And it can sound like it's just so picture perfect. So
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing.
Very welcome. Thank you for the question.
Mhm.
Other questions? Hello, I see one coming.
Hi, this is Ashok. I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know, this entire video, you have been very still, just moving your face, head a little bit. Is that how you want people to do? Or is it okay to move around just like a little bit like this, or, twist, swivel chair or whatever?
Yeah, great question. What I would say is, so I have talked with my hands. I'm not sure if you were able to see some of that because I tend to do that anyway. So that's pretty much as much that I am doing, because that goes back to the part of the presentation where I talked about those natural movements. So what you want to avoid is distracting. What I have seen people do when you talked about the chair and, you know, shifting back and forth, is that is where people's eye will go. They're going to watch you sliding back and forth. They're going to, you know, then they start to do it with you, you know, in that sense. So you just want to make sure that however you naturally move, that you remain within that little frame that we always are in. But you just don't want your movements to be too big that people stop listening to you because they're just watching you move back and forth. That's the goal, is to not be too distracting. So however you can be natural is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? No, I think we're good. Okay. Well, it's certainly.
I do have a
Yes,
yes.
please.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for all those
Sure.
tips that you gave us. I do have a question in terms of how long should the video be?
That's a good question. And that is, I would say, when you're doing your pitch, now I don't know the actual parameters that the Capital Region gave you, but from a standpoint of when you're doing videos, that's what I will come from. And I believe that your video should be short, meaning you don't want people to sit there and watch a 5-minute video. Okay, so you really probably, if you're going to pitch your company and tell them why they need to choose you to win this competition, that you probably should do it in, I would say, roughly about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, but I really would not go much longer than that. Now, again, I don't know the details of what the Capital Region has told you, but I'm just coming at it from the standpoint of a pitch and gaining people's attention and keeping their attention. So I would want you to be succinct, short as possible, but with power, you know, so you get all that information out and you come across in such a way that people are able to walk away with how great and wonderful your services are. But it should not be long. You'll lose people if it's too long.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is it okay to stand up and talk instead of sitting down?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just not standing today, but absolutely. So what you want to do though, when you do stand up, is you still want to make sure that your computer is eye level. So that means, you know, if you have some sort of chair, bar chair or something, or it could be a standing desk, that could work too. But you just need to make sure that your computer, the camera, is eye level so that you're still having that one-to-one conversation. It's actually even more ideal, to be honest, to stand up, because then, you know, your diaphragm, you can breathe and you can present in a little bit of a different capacity. And maybe that's better for you and how you communicate and how you naturally move. So that certainly can happen. But I just want to make sure that if you do, that you still use the same principles that we talked about before, that you're eye level, eye-to-eye communication, because that's how you're building that trust and that credibility, and that's how you're meaningfully connecting with people through that camera.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Is there anyone else that has any further questions? Happy to answer them, because I want you all to put together these winning pitches so that you can walk away and win this competition. And so it's so glad that you're here, because these tips will really help you to put you in another place so that you can be considered to be poised and professional, and really help to hone in on how you can strategize on the best presentation for your companies. So this is great.
Hey, quick question, Aaron,
Yes,
again.
please.
How far, like my location where I am from my camera, like, am I too far away? Am I good? Or would you suggest I come closer in? Because my computer, my camera is actually not far. I can actually touch it. I'm touching my screen. Am I in a good location right now, or am I too far or too close? Or
well, what I think is that you do feel to me to be far away, a little far away, because when I look at the top of your head to the base of the frame, you are really lower. as
All right.
opposed to being sort of like on, you know, my head is here, and then you see the top of the frame right there. So you can afford to be closer in so that there's more of that connection of that eye to eye so that they can see you.
All
Do
right,
you
very
have a
good.
green screen behind you by chance?
Actually, I do not.
Okay, because I can tell you're on your virtual setting. And so with that green screen, sometimes that helps to buffer when you move your hands and body parts around, and you might disappear within the green screen, within the virtual background. So that's just something to think about too.
Yeah, no, it's just my my 2-year-old son decided to take over my background today, and decided to put a lot of his toys here right now. And
Understood.
I didn't realize that. So I'm in 100% virtual background today.
Oh no, I totally get it. And that's why I'm not opposed to virtual backgrounds, because of that fact of we're all at home or in certain environments where we share it with other people. And so we need to be able to have an option to still be able to perform, but not necessarily have everybody see who else is in your household. So I totally get it. Totally get it. Any other questions? I think are we good?
I didn't have a question. I didn't have a question, Ms. Collins, but I do know that when we have generally the facilitator, everybody, they always ask for questions, but nobody ever thanks them for their time. And I think you did an outstanding job, you know, giving tips to everyone about how they can win this pitch competition. And I think it was, well, you know, a lot of the information was very helpful. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you. And I'm sure everybody else probably agrees with me.
Oh, thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. I'm happy to do it. You know, we all are out here hustling, you know, in the sense of making sure people know about our companies, and we have to sell. And we've been in this pandemic for the past year, and it looks like we may be working this way for a little while longer. So however I can help anyone else to do it more effectively so that we can continue to operate, I'm happy to do it. So I appreciate your thoughts, though. Thank you so much.
Yes, I just want to, this is so sweet. I just have one question, but I want to say thank you again.
Very welcome.
The question I have is more has to do with the software for editing.
Mhm.
Is there a software that you recommend? Is there like a tool that we can use?
Sure. I mean, there could be things like iMovie, you know, something
Okay.
along, or Adobe. It just, I don't know what types of computer systems that you have, but even when I'm using my iPhone, I just edit on the iPhone, but then I just put the video on my laptop, and I open up something like iMovie or something. It's just really simple. So whatever if you're using Microsoft Office products, that you can just use something within that can help you to edit. So I'm not using like a major editing production studio type quality, but it is enough with those types of softwares to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Excellent.
And there's also, and I think there's just a chat that came through that there are a lot of apps, and because they're free. So that's why I just don't want you all to feel as though that you have to buy stuff to help you do what you can do. You don't. There's just so much free out there now that still has really great quality. So that's important. So that was a great question.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there like an example that you recommend that other people have done?
Example of, I'm sorry.
Pitch, like videos, pitch videos that you recommend that you are like, wow, they did an excellent job doing this. Is there like one that we can look and see and get
really
inspiration?
good question. I will have to look back. I don't, not offhand, but that doesn't mean that I don't have something in my arsenal. So let me take a look at that, and then I can share it with the Capital Region to potentially get it to you. But you know, let me see if I can. I was just about to say if you Google, but you're going to come up with all sorts of stuff on Google. You're going to come up with all sorts of stuff. So let me see if I do have something, and I can get back to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And there is also something in the chat. Rebecca, who is my technical producer today from JDC Events, she's been putting some information in the chat about apps. So that's something that you might consider as well in terms of editing. I see another question. Hello.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is, do we need to be mindful of how your screen is displayed? Because I usually use my iPhone, and it usually displays me like on a vertical.
You're in portrait, right?
Right. Instead of, does it have a real impact? Should I try to use a different device so I come like as you are, horizontal?
So what I use my iPhone as well for recording, but I do put it horizontal. I just turn it the other way. And that's how it comes across, because it is an easier, you can view it easier, and you have more options in how you're able to display it. So that's why I tend to do that, to have it in another positioning so that I am landscape as opposed to portrait.
I need to learn how to do that, because when I do it, I go, I just
oh, you start to, yes, you start to turn to the side. Yes. Yes. And you know what you can also do, and I'm just going to put this out here as well. If you don't use your iPhone, or if you use, for instance, Zoom has free recording, meaning, or I think it has a free subscription. And so sometimes I use Zoom just to record myself, and it's free. So, you know, I just record within it, and I can use that as an option as well. Another software that I use a lot for recording videos is called Animoto.com, because it's very user friendly and it's easy. And for those of you that talked about graphics or wanting to insert other areas into your videos, it helps you to do that. And so I've been using Animoto for years now. And this is, you know, of course, pre-pandemic, but it's a great way to, and it's not very costly either, but it's a great way to show videos, and it's a great way to have them pieced together. You can put music to them. You can put graphics to them. You can put all sorts, you're just general recording. It's just such a great way to do it. So that's something that you might look into.
All right, thank you. Second question.
Yes.
Would it be okay, instead of, you know, pitching live, to prepare small presentations with, you know, pictures and make it very visual, and then just make the presentation as you did today? So you share your presentation, but your face is just in the small, you know, square up. So people will not be looking at you particularly, but will be looking at the presentation, and you're just telling the story like a front background. You see what I mean? Right, okay.
Absolutely. You know, that's however you want to tell your story is great. Images are great. People need to see images. And that's why when you're really focusing online, one of the things that's critical is to continue to keep your images moving, because it's just like watching TV.
Right.
You know, when you watch TV, you're watching different segments, and you're, you know, going from scene to scene and all of that. So whenever you can use images to support your story, it's ideal. So yes, if you don't want to focus so much on yourself, you really can use that as a way to use those particular images to help you to do it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
And I would say too, and you know, Rebecca's right, I saw she just put something in the chat, is to use some music. You can have an overlay of music of some sort to help you to communicate your message as well.
Right.
Great.
Yeah, I think the challenge is to do all of that in just 1 or 2 minutes. That's
and,
something,
you know,
that is stressful sometimes, because you have to compress so much information, and therefore it's difficult to pause, be not, because you basically have to speed up. And that sometimes, well, most times just messes with my messaging, because it just, there's a lot of tension. Right?
I agree with you. It is difficult to whittle down something to 2 minutes. You end up spending, you can spend so many hours to just get to 2 minutes.
Right.
You could, you know, pulling all of the assets together and the recordings and the graphics and all of that. So I totally get it. But when you have that one product that's done and that people are able to see and truly capture and resonate with, then, you know, it makes it all the better for it. All more worth it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Well, Well, this has been really great. A lot of great questions. I'm so glad that you've been able to get something out of this. Again, I'll be happy to be a resource as needed. I'm hopeful that you all will move to the next phase. I believe there are different phases of this competition, and I'm looking forward to seeing your names on the next phase of it, and to get that win. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we'll call it a wrap for Friday afternoon. So thank you all again, and I wish you well in pulling together that winning pitch, and I hope you all have a fabulous weekend as well.